evening, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Video is going to be a little late. Dealing with a little bit of tooth pain here, but not going to let that stop us. It's tropical outlook tonight. Been meaning to do this for about a week now, but severe weather's been crazy. In fact, there's actually an enhanced risk right now, but trying to do a live stream with this kind of pain, I don't think that's going to happen. Also, trying to get set up for a new computer coming in soon, so may not be streaming in the next couple weeks unless something really big is happening. So sorry if you might be looking for me there, but anyway, let's get into things with the tropical outlook here. Do have this area of interest here that has a 40 to 50% chance of development within the next 7 days here. This is towards the mid-Atlantic part of the tropics here, and maybe even heading towards some parts of the northern Atlantic. It's a very short window for it to develop because after a while, the further north we go, obviously are going to get colder. So as a result, I don't expect this to be any major issue for land. I don't expect this to end up becoming a hurricane at the moment, but we'll just keep an eye on it nonetheless. Also, as this continues to move eastward, as indicated by this report here, it's going to bring the storm is going to be over cooler waters, which will limit additional development, of course. So that's what we have going on here in the Atlantic. Nothing else to really be concerned with at the moment. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at the satellite imagery. And as you can see, nothing really crazy going on. It looks like, just from looking at this, even in a static shot here, that there's plenty of wind shear in the area as well, which will further impede development over a lot of the tropics right now. Let's go over to the Eastern Pacific, where we have a tropical depression 3E, and this is most likely going to end up becoming the next named storm over the Pacific here. This is actually slated to become a hurricane by Friday morning, I would say, or maybe midnight on Friday. It's probably going to end up being another fish storm. A lot of these storms over towards the Pacific tend to do that, but we usually will get some pretty decent numbers out of these. It'll be interesting to see how strong this gets. As far as conditions are set out here, the water temperatures are good, and the shear is pretty good here too. There's not a lot of shear to inhibit these storms from developing. Since these are no real threat to land at the moment, we aren't going to go too heavily into detail with this. With the Atlantic, it can sometimes be a little different of a story, but we might go over this area too. That being said, over here, let's go ahead and get into the models. So this is what we're seeing with the wind shear. This is the GEFS we're looking at. This is the GFS ensemble for anyone who doesn't know. And for the most part, wind shear is pretty persistent and pretty dominant over a large chunk of the Atlantic here. Further off towards the east here is where these cooler ocean temperatures exist, and that's exactly where this next disturbance will be heading. And as a result, like I said, wouldn't be surprised to see it be a named storm, but I wouldn't expect anything major to come of it. But as a whole here, the wind shear is pretty persistent. Nothing really has a great chance of developing anytime soon here, especially since everything's kind of circulating around this area of high pressure here. The same thing goes with the European ensemble here. High pressure remains dominant, and it's also going to help keep that disturbance from really developing. So pretty good model agreement between the ensembles here. Good news there. So as far as the Atlantic is concerned, right now I don't expect too much to come of it. We may see a named storm, we may not. That will be just about average. One storm every year in July is typically the average. But as a whole, when we look at the ensemble members here, I'm just going to pull this up on both of these. Like I said, I wouldn't expect a whole lot to come of it. Make sure we get the time frame in here, even though the lettering is pretty small. We'll also have to start over real quick. So here's about where we are right now. Here's our current disturbance. Like I said, pretty good confidence in that developing maybe into a tropical depression, maybe a named storm, but like I said, the window of opportunity is very short. The western coast of Africa has to be watched more and more as we get further into the month. A couple areas of interest. One particular area that draws my eye a little bit more. It's a little further towards this area. This is where the wind shear is a little bit lighter, but not much. Even so, there's still an interesting area that we see develop there. Not a lot of confidence in it, because usually the more red numbers that you see, the higher the confidence, and usually a stronger area of low pressure will exist with this. And we just don't really see that right now. So, like I said, some interesting things to note here. Good confidence of that high pressure area persisting throughout a good chunk of the month here. So it'll be interesting to see how things develop from there. The greatest area of interest to me still would probably be the Gulf if anything were to try and develop. But again, wind shear there is pretty high as well. And then high pressures have been kind of meandering around the southeast here, which is also going to make things a little bit more difficult, because that will also increase the wind shear as well. And it's pretty much the same thing on the European model here, or the European ensemble. Here we are getting closer to our current time. Here's our tropical system there. Here comes that high pressure that's moving into place here, is represented by these blue numbers. Then after that, of course, we watch for the additional tropical activity that we could see with the energy coming off of the western coast of Africa. But again, wind shear is probably going to be the main inhibiting factor with this. But anything that develops in the Gulf needs to be watched extra close. And then on top of that, interesting thing to note here, key difference between the two models, is the fact that at 342 hours, because we're a little bit behind with the Euro here. The 18Z run's just coming in, but this is the same little conglomerate of low pressure that we saw from the GFS ensemble. However, with this, it looks more so like maybe there's a better chance of development with the Euro here. Like I said, the 18Z hasn't come in with it yet, so hard to say, but there's a little bit higher confidence with this. The Euro may be thinking that this could develop just based off this 12Z run. Of course, this was made around lunchtime, a little outdated, so we'll see what happens with that. I may make a post in the morning if I can remember, if I have the time, because work's been crazy lately. So I guess next we'll go ahead and take a look at the Pacific here. May as well at this point. So I rarely get to look at these areas here, so it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. So okay, so we're looking at the European ensemble now at this point. Of course, we already know about that tropical low right there. Most likely will end up becoming our next named storm in the Pacific. And then, of course, the Pacific tends to be really active during this time of year. So to see these little multiple areas of interest popping off with these pieces of energy, nothing surprising there. This is probably going to be persistent across both models here. And as we continue to go forward, we're going to probably see the complete verification of that. In fact, interestingly enough, it's almost like the opposite towards the Atlantic. It looks like the European seems to be more aggressive. Here, GFS is a little bit more aggressive. But nonetheless, it's all the same. Could see multiple named storms this month across the Eastern Pacific. Thankfully, though, from the looks of it as of right now, nothing is a huge threat towards land. Towards the end of the run, we always have to watch out for some crazy little last-second trends here that usually end up changing up as we get further along here. But this looks like it gets a little bit closer to Mexico. We'll see if that actually ends up verifying. Right now, I'm doubtful, but we'll see what happens. But as far as the setup is concerned, as far as tropical development is concerned, wind shear, like I said, pretty light. closer to we're closer to Mexico here, and as we continue to go forward, the wind shear actually looks like it lightens up more. So here we are heading towards mid-month here. Pretty light wind shear. It starts to build back, but even so, this is a good corridor for storms to develop. This is typically what we usually will see across the eastern Pacific here. So no real surprises there. And this doesn't look like it's going to be changing anytime soon. So now that we've seen that, let's go ahead and take a look at it on the euro. No real surprises there. Just trying to make sure we're covering all the ends here, so to speak. But like I said, pretty similar deal. Good little pocket right here for storms to develop, and that's going to persist as we head through most of, if not the rest of July. But that's all I got for this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, you know what to do. Smash that like button, decimate that subscribe button, and of course hit that share button. There's anything you want to know further, just let me know in the comments and we'll see what I can do. But in the meantime, this has been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and have a good night.